Hey, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Buy In podcast hosted by myself, Cole Hare. In today's episode, we're going to go into the downtown Charleston real estate market. So let's dive into it. So let's talk about downtown. Obviously, the reason why I started with this is because this is probably the most well-known market we have in the Charleston area. It is visited the most by tourists. It is visited by most that people when they come down here, that's where they're going to go. They're going to go to downtown. And the reason why it's the most well known is for a multitude of reasons that we can go into. So one, I would say its history and its historic architecture. You have places like Rainbow Row, White Point Garden, and you have the market. Some of the most historic structures sit in the downtown area out of the whole entire country. And the city and preservationists have done a really good job at preserving that history and those structures to where they either go untouched or are rehabilitated, renovated, restorated to their original glory. And the city remains on track with that initiative to preserve as much history as they can with the city. It's also known for its culinary scene. So they have legendary low country cuisine, as well as multiple other cuisines from different cultures, arranging anywhere downtown. There's multiple areas that we'll go into that have restaurants that are some of the top of restaurants in the country. Um, you have waterfront and outdoor attractions. You have the Charleston Harbor. You have the pineapple fountain that a lot of people see when they look up pictures. If you were to Google downtown Charleston, you'll see the pineapple fountain. And then you have the Cooper River Bridge, which connects the downtown to Mount Pleasant, that a lot of people like to run and walk sometimes. Even saw a video last year where some person actually drove not in the driving lane, but actually the walking and running trail was driving their car across the bridge. And then you also have festivals and events every year downtown. Some of the biggest ones I would say is SeaWe, which is the Southeastern Wildlife Expo that is held on certain um, areas of downtown. So they have an exhibit in Marion Square that's free that everybody goes to. That they do one at the Gilliard, which is a city government building, and then you have one on the water over near the Citadel. And that event, they really just celebrate outdoor and wildlife culture. Then you have the Charleston Wine and Food Festival. It's a great festival to go to. Um, Charleston's also known for its shopping and nightlife. I think we just added our Gucci, so they have Louis Vuitton, Gucci, also some great local shops that to go to. And then nightlife, we're known for having our bars and our clubs that are we're just ramping up into the season where nightlife is about to boom every single weekend. They actually just started recently since lived down here, shutting off King Street, which is the main street where most bars are at, just to keep everybody safe. Um, and then lastly, I would say most tourists do this when they come to Charleston is the ghost tours, where you can visit the Old City Jail, the Dock Street Theater, and some graveyards, and go on those tours just to kind of get a glimpse into what history looks like in Charleston. So my opinions on the market, just to read off some stats to you that I'm pulling from ChatGPT that you could probably look up yourself, but I'm just going to read them to you now. So as of January, we typically don't get real estate stats until um, after the end of that month. So February hasn't came out yet. We'll probably get those mid-March. So as of January, median sales price is at 835,000, which is actually a little bit of a decrease compared to the previous year. Median list price is at 1.7 million currently, and average days on market are sitting at 180 days, which is up 60 days from the previous year. The number of homes sold that were in January was 21, which is a little bit of a decrease between January 2024, where we sold 24 homes in the downtown market. Um, and so those numbers do suggest a little bit of a cooling trend in the residential market with a little bit longer listing periods and some declining numbers on the median prices. And I think what's to blame for that would be we just came out of an election where some people were looking to see who won. And I would also say, with interest rates not really budging from the 6 to 7% mark, um, is the reason for that. Now, I will say more and more people are getting a little bit comfortable with the rate and the way mortgage rates have been. But it still is in the back of people's minds when they get pre-qualified, um, and they see how much their mortgage payment will be. So let's talk about a little bit of the different areas of Charleston, some of the historic districts and things like that, because it isn't a huge city, but each district and historic district has their own different type of feel, if that makes sense. So the one I wanted to start with was South Abroad. And later on in the episode, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to pull up a map just to kind of show you where these areas are at. But let's go into South Abroad. And the three words I would use to describe South Abroad is luxury, it's historic, and it's prestigious. This is some of the most exclusive real estate, inexpensive real estate in all of Charleston. They are mansions, they have cobblestone streets, and they are waterfront properties. Real estate prices are some among the highest in the city. Um, and if you've been to Charleston, this is right around Battery Park and Rainbow Road. So all those properties that you've seen around that area are just some of the most beautiful properties you'll see in Charleston that has to offer. You also have the French Quarter, and I would describe the French Quarter as a lot of tourism because you have the market in the French Quarter. It's a lot of history. It's historic structures that are not just residential structures. So you have the slave market that was there, and you also have a lot of commercial space there. So it's one of the oldest sections of Charleston. It's filled with art galleries, theaters, and boutique hotels. It's got a mix of luxury condos as well in there with some townhomes. And it also has a strong short-term rental market that is no longer really allowed in that area, but people that have been short-term renting out properties for, I would say, over 5+ years, um, it's a strong market for those right now because you're so close to everything. So those rentals do really well, really, really well. You also have Charleston Village, which I would describe Charleston as upscale residential and has a little bit of college influence. And the reason why I say college influence because the eastern side of Charleston Village starts to dip into the College of Charleston, which is very centrally located in the peninsula. But Charleston Village is also ranges all the way to the east side of the peninsula along that water that waterway. So you have Colonial Lake, and surrounding Colonial Lake, you have a lot of beautiful single family homes that are just gorgeous homes. Colonial Lake is also a great area for a lot of people to do walking, and you'll see a lot of people walking their dogs, working out, jogging. It's also very close to the college, which I mentioned, so it attracts a lot of students and faculty. And you also have a very good mix of historic and renovated properties. Um, so that's Harleston Village. And then you have the King Street District, which King Street runs. I like to kind of, the way I explain it to people, King Street runs north to south and it basically splits the peninsula in two. Um, King Street does have residential, but it's more well known for their retail, nightlife, and mixed use development. So they divide King Street into three sections. You have Lower King, which is a lot of the antique district. You have Middle King, which has a lot of fashion and retail. And then you have Upper King, which is a lot of restaurant and nightlife. Um, Commercial space on King Street is always at a high demand, especially for retail and dining. And it's a lot of high foot traffic, which makes it a prime area for investors and hospitality. Um, King Street is the street that is most well known in Charleston, and I'm sure if you've been down there, we like to do a thing called Second Sunday. So every second Sunday of the month, you're able to actually walk part of King Street. No cars or trucks are allowed on the road at all. And it's just a really cool experience. I'm so glad the city decided to do that years ago. Um, so yeah, that's the King Street district. You also have Cannonboro and Elliottboro. I would describe these as trendy, up and coming, and very investment friendly. And the reason why I say they're investment friendly is because they sit in what's called the short-term overlay in downtown. I know I mentioned it back at the French Quarter, but um, the city has started to restrict a lot of short-term rental units. So Airbnb, VRBO have become a little bit restricted and tougher to acquire permits for if you're buying a property downtown. However, Cannonboro and Elliottboro sit in what's called a short-term overlay. And so a lot of the properties, I wouldn't say all sit in that overlay, but the majority of them do. And um, if the property meets the current restrictions in that overlay, which can be parking, and some other factors, then you're able to still short-term rent it out. But the property also has to be commercially zoned, and you have to have those parking spaces. However, if it is residentially zoned, you can live in, technically, if it was a duplex or triplex, you could live in one of the units and rent out the remaining units. So it's a hot spot for young professionals, investors, is what we're really seeing. Increasingly popular due to new restaurants and some hotels and mixed-use development. So we are seeing a little bit more commercial creep into Cannonboro and Elliottboro, as well as some restaurants and some really, really good restaurants. Some of my favorite restaurants sit in Cannonboro. Vern's, to mention one, is in there. So the next area I would go into is Ansonboro. And Ansonboro is interesting. It's very historic. It's a very walkable area, and it's got a mix of residential commercial. It's one of the first ever really planned neighborhoods in Charleston, and that's what makes it a little bit different from the rest of downtown. You have a mix of townhomes, you have a mix of apartments, and it does have some dining as well. It's very close to the Charleston City Market. It's a prime location for tourists and residents. So that's a little bit about Ansonboro. And then the last area I wanted to mention was the east side. So the east side, we are right now seeing a lot of gentrification, redevelopment, and some investment opportunities. It's historically known for a working class neighborhood, but has undergone some revitalization in the last couple of years. There is an increasing demand for commercial spaces and development there. And a lot of investors right now are currently looking at up and coming properties in that area. Um, so yeah, that is a lot of the historic districts that Charleston has to offer. Let's go into a map area and kind of show you guys what you can expect. So we're going to go into street view so you can kind of see what I'm talking about in these different types of areas. So it's not just me word of mouth. If you're listening on Spotify, I apologize, but you're going to have to go watch the episode on YouTube. So let's pull that up right now. We have the map pulled up, and I know we touched on this earlier, but here you'll see the South of Broad. If you see my mouse circle the South of Broad, and it is the southernmost tip of the peninsula. And I know we talked about some of the most expensive real estate sits in South of Broad. A lot of it is waterfront if it's along Murray Boulevard or Battery Street, even East Bay Street a little bit as well, where you'll see Rainbow Road. So let's go into Street View. You'll see these houses are massive. Some of the most highest square footages of properties you'll see downtown. A lot of TV shows and films are shot here. A lot of people like to go to White Garden Point, get engagement pictures, get engaged here. I took my headshots here for real estate. It's just a great area. A lot of people you'll see working out along here, walking their dogs. just a great area in general. You'll see there's this development going on as well. There's a couple hotels along the Battery as well. So very cool area and some of the most expensive real estate in Charleston sits here. Um, so French Quarter, I will go into the market and what that looks like. So this is the market right here. Very historic structure. A lot of people actually think this is where during slavery, where slaves were sold. That's a common misconception. It was not. This is not where that was happening. It actually did actually used to be a market to sell produce and things like that. Now it's just a lot of local vendors. There has been some commercialized vendors take over some spots in here, but you still have your sweetgrass basket weaving and local jewelry stores, clothing. And on the other sides of market streets, you'll have restaurants, as well as some retail shops. And this is also where you can start your carriage rides, which are also a vital part in Charleston that a lot of tourists like to do, is the carriage rides that take you around downtown, tell you about the history. Sometimes it's often incorrect history, but so if you're going to do the carriage ride, take it with a grain of salt. Also, don't do the carriage ride during 95-degree weather in the summer. The horses are not always treated the best. So, but that is where you can do a carriage ride. Here's a very cool restaurant of a historic building. It's called, I think it used to be called Five Church, but now it's called Church and Union. Very cool building inside. Great restaurant that you can go to. And you'll see in the background right here as well, a cruise ship. So this is where the cruise terminal is as well. It's near here. So that's one of the big spots in the French Quarter. Halston Village. I'm going to hit on Colonial Lake because that is one of the hot spots of Halston. Um, there is also, you'll see people here jogging, walking their dogs. There is tennis courts and pickleball courts over here, but a lot of the houses are just gorgeous houses, a little bit less square footage than what you see at the Battery, but still, they've been renovated. Beautiful properties, just a great area in general. And then you have King Street. Let's just start right here on King Street. It's a little bit south King Street, so you can kind of get a feel. And as I pull it up, this is where a lot of the retail space is. You have Charleston Place, which is a hotel slash on the bottom mixed use. It's retail. That's where the new Gucci is. If you keep coming up, you're going to see more stores, a couple of restaurants as well, but mainly retail with a little bit of hospitality as well. But if you keep going up, we'll come up on the four-way stop between Calhoun and King Street, where you have Marion Square and one of the most iconic hotels, Francis Marion. I think one of the oldest hotels in Charleston. So this is the Francis Marion. Um, and then you have Marion Square right across the street. Um, One of the biggest squares, parks in Charleston. Um, so yeah. And then I know we spoke on the festivals. Actually, Seawee has multiple locations for their festival. Well, one of the locations is Marion Square, where it's actually free, so you can just walk through it. They do dog shows and other wildlife shows in the middle. So very cool area. Um, so let's go into Upper King. So let's head out of this. It's got me on Lululemon. So Upper King, you'll start to see a lot more of restaurants. So you have piano bar, it's a very cool bar, and nightlife as well. So we'll see some restaurants here, Toast. Very cool spot. It's just less foot traffic, I would say, a little bit on Upper King compared to Lower King. but still very heavy traffic. So that is Upper King. And then if we go into Cannonboro, where we talked about the short-term overlay, you'll start to see the houses look a little bit different than South Abroad and Charleston Village. And I'm going to drop you right here on Bogart Street. And let's use this property as an example. This looks like a duplex to me. Has been renovated. Um, could be somebody living here. This could be an Airbnb. Not exactly sure, but the reason why I wanted to show this property is because you'll see these all around, and these are called Charleston singles. Most of the time, they're either duplexes or triplexes. There are a couple quadplexes, but not many. And um, as we talked about earlier, if this property was commercially zoned, and since it does have, it looks like it has the off-street parking, um, you would be able to acquire a short-term rental permit to Airbnb out this property. If it's residentially zoned, you could live in, say, the top unit or the bottom unit and Airbnb out the other unit. You'll also see on these corner streets where you have some mixed use residential at the top of the unit, and the bottom unit could be um, restaurant, dining, bar. So there are structures in Canterbury that are like this as well, but most of them are you're going to see are these anywhere from I would say 1,500 square feet to 3,000 square foot Charleston singles that have either been renovated or haven't been touched yet. And the ones that haven't been touched are prime real estate for investors currently. That's what they're looking for. And it's very tough these days. Just this one, as an example, you can't really tell because the tree's covering it up, but you can kind of see it's been um, dilapidated, and you'll see these red X's, which the city puts out on these properties as a sign, and basically meaning that this property could be a fire hazard or anything like that. And I would say property owners range all over the place. Um, these could be inherited property owners. This one right beside it, as you can tell, it's been renovated a little bit, and an investor probably bought it up. And that's why we said this is just investor central right here, is because you're going to see those mix of properties like that, and they have the potential to be short term rented out. So yeah, that's Cannonboro. Um, so yeah, that's let me show you the medical university, which we didn't touch on, but our medical university, MUSC, is massive and they're only growing. They're just built a couple of years ago, the Shaw Jenkins Children's Hospital. Funny story, I actually worked for the architecture firm in college as a runner for them, and they actually worked on this project themselves. But MUSC is not stopping. They're continuing to redevelop and add new spaces on their campus. So some more developments coming in the future from them. But it is probably one of the biggest medical spaces in South Carolina. So any people that are undergoing serious injuries or diseases um, and their local hospitals cannot figure it out, they will be flown here, if not drive here. So yeah, that is the medical university. And just north of that is actually the second college that is downtown, which is the Citadel Military School. And they actually have a football field, so we'll show that. And this is on the very northeast side of the peninsula. So this is the Citadel Football Stadium. And the Citadel has actually also undergone some renovations on their campus and have done some new structures like this one, actually, um, which one of the big architecture firms as well downtown has worked on some new student centers for their schools. So the Citadel is also upgrading their campus as well. Um, so really three major schools in the downtown. You have College of Charleston, Citadel, and the Medical University of South Carolina. So that is the Citadel, and yeah, that is downtown and sits right in between Ashley River um, and Cooper River. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Leave any comments down below in YouTube, or you can find me on Instagram or TikTok. If you have any questions about downtown or opinions that you would like to give, feel free. We're very open. And you have a good rest of your day. Thank you guys for listening. See y'all.